Hey everyone, and welcome to a new video. If you've ever been told to use spot metering for accuracy, evaluative metering because it's smarter, or that metering doesn't matter because you either shoot in RAW or in manual, none of that is completely true. And some of it is just plain wrong. In this video, I'm going to show you how metering really works and dispel the myths that lead people to think that metering is actually measuring light. Because what metering is doing is it's making assumptions. If you stay till the end, I'll show you the fail-safe workaround when these assumptions make your photos go bad. My name is Simon D'Entremont and I'm a professional nature and wildlife photographer living in Eastern Canada. I make weekly videos giving you photo tips or taking you behind the scenes for wildlife and nature photography. Subscribe if you want to see more. Now the reason these metering myths won't die is simple. The camera often gets away with it. Most scenes are average and so the camera and the meter look pretty smart. But the moment the scene gets difficult, backlighting, snow, dark scenes, faces, the assumptions break down and people blame the camera instead of the metering system chosen. Now to get us all on the same page, when we're talking about metering, what are we talking about? Metering is the process by which a camera evaluates the brightness of a scene and decides what exposure it thinks will produce a correct image. This is used in any camera mode other than full manual, modes where the camera is adjusting some of the settings for you. This would be in aperture priority, shutter priority, auto ISO, and program mode. To break it down into its simplest form, the average scene brightness is expected to be medium gray, or a gray that reflects 18% of light as a correct exposure. This shows on your light meter here as 0. As a demonstration, in aperture priority, if I photograph something black, the camera will adjust the shutter speed to make the scene medium gray. If I photograph something white, it will again adjust the shutter speed, but this time in the opposite direction to make the scene medium gray again. If I photograph a scene with many different tones, turn it into black and white and average them out in Photoshop, the average will come out to the same medium gray. If you compare them, voila, they look the same brightness. But note that we've already uncovered a problem. None of these three scenes were actually medium gray. I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Storyblocks. With Storyblocks, you pay one set price and have unlimited access to over 1 million pieces of content and assets for your media needs. If I need templates to make effects and animations for my videos, I can download them rather than design them from scratch. Way easier. That's because I'm not a great video editor and it takes me forever to make them. Check these out and lots more. I also use them to find background music and sound effects for my videos to spice them up a bit. Making content for social media is just part of many businesses' strategies these days, and Storyblocks is the place to go to get video, sound effects, photos, music, special effects, and lots else you might need. All searchable and royalty-free. There are even photos and video, and you may say, but surely you're not using video footage given you shoot your own video. Well, I can't shoot drone footage in many places in Africa or in national parks without complicated and expensive commercial licenses. So I use someone else's footage instead. To get started with unlimited stock media downloads at one price, head to storyblocks.com/Simon or click on the link in the description. Now, not all scenes are one common tone all across the field of view. Some are bright in some parts, dark in others. For this reason, camera manufacturers have designed various metering modes that look at images differently. Spot metering looks at a very small point when determining exposure brightness, or center weighted, a small area in the rough center, or evaluative or multi looks at the whole image. So now let's look at the myths and misunderstandings about metering and uncover what's really going on here that can sometimes cause us problems. The first is that the pros use spot metering because it's more accurate, so I should too. This is probably the most common myth of all. This causes novices to jump right into using it, which is actually the wrong choice most of the time. Actually, spot metering is more selective, but not more accurate. No matter what you point at, the camera does the same thing. It forces the area to middle gray. If you spot meter something bright, it will darken it. If you meter something dark, it will lighten it. Now, this is great if your subject is a medium tone in a medium scene, But if your subject is light tone in a dark scene or dark tone in a light scene, your exposure may not properly represent what you see or what you want. So spot metering isn't accurate, it's precise. In the real world, only use it when you understand how getting an exposure based on that small spot will impact the rest of the photo. Is changing the brightness of the subject to medium gray the best for this image, knowing that the rest of the photo will also get brighter or darker? Will it negatively impact the photo in some other way? See here in this photo, if my subject is turned into gray with spot metering, look what happens to the rest of the photo. Or if this subject is made gray, look what happens here. Once you understand these things, then use spot metering. Until you do, I suggest avoiding this mode. Another common metering mode is one that looks at the whole image and uses all the scene to determine image brightness. This is called Evaluative on a Canon, Matrix on an Nikon, and Multi on a Fuji, Sony, and Panasonic. Depending on the brand and camera, this may also involve figuring out what's in focus and adding some priority to that area. Now, one thing that's changed quite a bit in recent cameras is the use of AI and color data. You see, for years, metering was all done in black and white. The camera couldn't really understand colors and shapes, so the scene was looked at and adjusted in black and white. But modern, smarter cameras with AI technology can now see colors, faces, eyes, and actually try to understand what's in the scene. Now, this can only be good, right? Well, not always. Welcome to the age of opinionated light meters. What do I mean by this? Well, instead of the old technique of how bright is this, newer light meters answer, what do I think you want? For example, some are programmed to get the faces of people properly exposed almost at all costs. So faces are hijacking your exposure and getting properly exposed, but maybe at the cost of blowing out the background, or maybe ruining your plan of a nice silhouette. Or maybe this nighttime street scene gets ruined because the camera detected a passerby's face. Another challenge is that rather than looking at the histogram in monochrome, it looks at each color on its own. Now, some colors will blow out faster than others when you break an image into red, green, and blue and make the exposure very bright. Note that the camera here in auto ISO keeps the ISO at 3200 to avoid clipping the red channel, but when the red is removed, the ISO climbs to 5000, 2/3 of a stop more. What if your subject is wearing a bright red dress and your camera is smart enough to say, hey, don't blow out the reds on your subject? Well, it needs to underexpose the whole image to protect those reds. Same with blues in a sky. Some brands may even protect highlights for JPEG shooters. This is evidenced by the fact that blinkies can indicate overexposure on the back LCD, while in processing your photos, there's another stop of headroom left before real overexposure happens. This happens in part because the back LCD uses a JPEG, not your RAW, and your camera may be exposing for JPEGs with less dynamic range. This means that RAW shooters can actually push exposures by a stop brighter in camera without clipping. And if you don't do so, your shadows may be underexposed and be noisier than they need to be. These evaluative meters aren't wrong per se, but they're JPEG safe by design. They're optimized for pleasing, non-clipped JPEGs, not maximum raw data capture. So what does this mean for you in the field? Evaluative or multimetering is smart, but its smartness may override the photographer's intention by making too many assumptions about what you want. In the end, they may be okay for most, but undermining the advanced photographer's need to try something different and out of the box. Be aware that in scenes with one overwhelming color, like in a rock concert with a flashing light in a particular color, avoiding clipping in one channel may cause overall underexposure. Know that changing your framing will change your exposure even if the scene is exactly the same. Learn how to use exposure lock on your camera to freeze the exposure level as you reframe your shot. This would be the star button on a Canon and the AEL button on a Sony, Nikon, Fuji, and Panasonic. Also, learn how much room there is between the arrival of blinkies on your back LCD and actual data clipping in your RAW files, so you can learn how much blinkies is still okay. And be cautious of evaluative and multimetering when faces are in the scene or intentional silhouettes are your plan. If a face has been detected, assume your exposure has been face biased. On some cameras, turning off face detection may help your camera ignore faces for exposure if you're photographing street scenes with people in it, for example. Now, what to do when this happens and affects your exposure in a way you didn't want? That's where exposure compensation comes in. Look for this symbol. This is a feature that allows you to tweak what the camera meter is recommending for an exposure. If it's too dark, brighten it by adding exposure compensation by moving this pointer to the right. See the light meter going up here. Image too bright, darken it with negative exposure compensation. Like here, your camera is guessing at your intent. If it's wrong, make the image what you intended. By the way, follow me on Instagram and Facebook and sign up for my email list, and you can download my free guide on shooting backlit for free. The third myth about metering is that shooting in full manual means ignoring the light meter, or that it isn't needed. The reality is that in full manual, the light meter is still your friend. But if the camera isn't changing any of the settings, why does that matter? Well, it's because the light meter is actually one of the best tools in getting the exposure right. Now, how is that? Earlier in this video, I've already described how both spot and evaluative or multi-metering can get it wrong, even if they're either very precise or very smart. Well, the answer lies in, what do I do when the camera gets it wrong? There are two answers to this. One is to use exposure compensation, as I just mentioned earlier. The other is to switch to full manual and take over the setting of the exposure. But you may be saying, but I don't know how to shoot in full manual. I don't know how to get the exposure right. Well, there's a technique that used to be very popular for many years that seems to have died off as more modern metering features and automation gets into photography. But it's the best tool to turn to when things go wrong. Here's what you do. Put your camera in spot metering mode. Now look into your scene and find something that's as close to what you think is medium gray. You know, that target tonality that approximates a correct exposure. Then adjust your settings until the light meter reads 0. What you've done is you've manually done what the light meter and automatic settings in the camera might do. You've found the middle toned exposure in the scene and set your shutter speed, aperture, and ISO such that this tone is in the center of your light meter, hence your exposure. A big thanks to the video sponsor Storyblocks. Use the link in the description to get access to great materials for your creative efforts, all made by real people. And if you found this video deserving, give it a like and YouTube will show it to even more photographers, helping them better understand their gear. And I hope that you can use these tips to get out soon to take your own unique and amazing photos. I know you can do it.